Rezero is finally back and...
歌目を連れて舞う以上いざ決戦って流れで
Rezero is finally back, and it sure knows how to grab your attention right from the get-go with episode 9, Titty Scramble. I mean City Scramble. This entire scene is very entertaining and, much like in the light novel, hilariously unnecessary because this dialogue could have been conveyed through normal conversation. We don't need to have Priscilla exhibiting herself in the background, but you know, it's always appreciated. She's a very healthy young lady. Even in the water city of Pristella, I'm sure she will never drown. And I love how Liliana is literally just a stand-in for the audience. She even thanks Priscilla directly, which is just super funny. Moving on with the plot, and I mean the actual plot, not Priscilla's overly protective airbags, Anastasia just stumbles into this situation, and I love how unfazed she is. You truly wonder what types of things Anastasia has seen while wandering around Kararagi. Priscilla offers Al, saying she doesn't need him, and she does indicate that she knows that Al has a lot of secrets. So once again, Priscilla is super smart, even if she's very arrogant about it. And she does know that even if she doesn't know the full truth about Al, that there's a lot that he's keeping from her. She follows that up by saying that Anastasia also has plenty of secrets, which is no surprise. Obviously, every single royal candidate must have their own bunch of secrets, even Emilia, even if she probably doesn't remember half of them. But it is interesting that she noted that because perhaps she's intending to say that there's something bubbling on the surface, something that she should tell the others. The conversation is kept short as a lot of the audience has already nosebled a lot and we're only a few seconds into the episode, and Priscilla ends by saying in her confident and arrogant manner that she will need no tricks. She's just going to beat Wrath. It's just going to be two fire ladies slapping the tits out of each other. We then transition to the opening, and I am conflicted about it, because on one hand, the opening is very good, so is the ending. Myth Android and Rezero is always a match made in heaven, such a goated band. Anyways, I think both the opening and ending songs are very good. However, it is a new core, it is a new part. It has been quite a long wait for new episodes of Rezero, and so I was expecting something different, something new. Even if they kept the songs, which I don't mind, I was expecting at least some tiny changes in animation, some different scenes in the opening, but we didn't really get that, so I was a bit disappointed, I'm not going to lie. Usually Rezero puts a lot of effort in these things, which is ironic because a lot of episodes of Rezero don't even have openings, but still, I was expecting something a little bit fresh. We transition to the middle of the city, and some of these monsters are so goofy. This one has a mohawk, it's almost cute in a dorky kind of way, which also applies to Otto, who is also cute in a dorky kind of way, and he's apparently just wandering around the city trying to fulfill his mission, and he meets the wrong company, because he encounters Felt, a known criminal that will likely rob him. And also Lai from the Archbishops is also there, but I still think Felt is the bigger threat here. We then go to Capella, who is unnerving as usual. Her dark, disease-filled appendages are just completely yucky and disgusting, and even the sound design is super good. You have this sort of white noise. I almost had to check if my headset was working properly. It was really good. It really creates that grotesque, repulsive atmosphere. Since they're about to go into battle and there's no point in hiding it anymore, Wilhelm just tells the truth about his wife to Garfield, which Kurgan just takes the chance to also unveil and unmask, and he's super jacked and blue, and he looks good. So if you are into large-breasted, red-headed women and jacked and meaty blue guys with multiple arms, then this episode has been amazing for you up until this point, but trust me, the sexiest moment is yet to come. Once again, the sound design is super masterful and very attentive to detail. When Garfield attacks, you hear the sound of a tiger in the background, roar, which doesn't make a lot of sense because he would be making the sound, not the attack itself. But hey, it still looks cool, it's a little bit video gamey, but it's what I'm here for. And while the giant jacked Smurf is fighting the little tiger, we get a marital dispute as Wilhelm and Teresia start fighting, and I just love pure sword fighting, just pa pa pa. I like this. Even though I like, for example, characters like Julius, who shoot powerful rainbows out of their swords or whatever, I do miss some classical choreography of just steel on steel, just bang, bang, bang. And speaking of banging, Wilhelm manages to strike Teresia to unveil her cloak to confirm that it is in fact his late wife. We transition back to the dynamic duo of Priscilla and Liliana, where Priscilla notes that someone has been going around hunting the Council of Ten, but it is not the witch cult, because the witch cult wants to keep the Council of Ten alive, so it's somebody that's trying to hinder the witch cult, which is very interesting. We can make an educated guess as to who she could be alluding to. Maybe it starts with an A and ends with an L, but the conversation is interrupted because Shiryu just blows the place up with fire for no reason at all other than style points in the grand entrance, which I can respect. We go back to the wedding where we are reminded that Subaru still has that weird yucky disease Chernobyl-like stuff in his hand. I hope he's doing alright. And Regulus is confused, even outraged at the fact that Emilia would take Subaru, who looks like a dork, over him. I mean, if it was Reinhardt, for example, and I find this comment super funny, but also in universe, I don't think it is ever explicitly stated, either in the light novel or in the anime, unless I'm forgetting something, if Reinhardt is in fact hot. Because, you know, besides being one of the most overpowered characters in anime ever, the dude also has the good looks going for him. What can this man not do? Up until now, nothing at all. And I must correct myself because there is one thing he cannot do, and that is draw his sword whenever he wants, because the sword will only allow itself to be drawn against worthy opponents, which Regulus apparently is not, which Subaru is just rolling around laughing. It was a super funny scene, and I like how Regulus, such a prideful, disgusting person, is even more irritated at this. He then proceeds to use his own wives as hostages and even says that it's their fault. This guy is such a piece of garbage, and he is without a doubt the king of gaslighting. He will be committing some sort of evil deed and saying it's your fault this is happening. This dude is completely unhinged, and without a doubt he must have the hidden authority of gaslighting because he's just so good at it. Encouraged by her savior, and also Subaru is there as well, she points the Ice Dagger at Regulus and freezes him in place, which raises one of the questions I had in a previous video and also even in my light novel reviews, which is if Emilia was unconscious and she didn't know about Regulus's powers of invincibility, she only knew about his offensive capabilities, which she saw against the wife, then why didn't she try to do this sooner when there were less wives and less hostages to be had around her? It's just... And what was the plan here? She was just going to marry him and say no at the end to, you know, encourage his rage even more? I don't understand what the plan is here. Emilia is very cute, she's very brave, but she's not the sharpest tool in the shed. That's all I can say. Thankfully for them, Reinhardt manages to defuse the situation and he listens to Regulus and complies with his demands, one of which is for him to drop his sword, which we just established a few seconds ago was useless. Once again, even Regulus is also not the sharpest tool in the shed. And then Reinhardt tanks one for the team, literally as he takes one of Regulus' strikes head on. And we see him bleed for the first time, which is very shocking, but also amazing in a way because even his blood is very bright red. Even his blood looks cool. This dude is so heroic that even when he's losing, he still looks amazing. It's just a super funny, I guess, artistic choice as to why they chose to do that. It's just super funny. And if Rezero was just a generic lame shonen, this would be Subaru's Captain America moment, where he would draw the sword and face his enemy, but no, Rezero has an actual plot and is interesting, so that does not happen. What does happen though is that apparently Reinhardt does not die when he is killed. Shout out to all my Fate fans. To celebrate his very timely revival, Reinhardt just uses the Ice Dagger created by Emilia to just blow half the building up. And see, this is what I said in the Priscilla episode. Reinhardt, he just takes pointy things and blows things up. He's not a swordsman with finesse. I maintain, even though it is controversial and it does sound silly, Priscilla is a better swordsman than Reinhardt. Fight me, I don't care. We transition back to our favorite merchant, Otto, who's trying to have a coherent conversation with an archbishop. Grave mistake, you never win on that one. And by the way, why does Roy, the archbishop of gluttony, have such a skinny little arm? He looks malnourished. For an Archbishop of Gluttony, he should just eat some burgers or something. That looks disturbing. And then Roy proceeds to have a full-on meltdown talking about his hero, which is a conversation we are reminded of. It is reminiscent of something from season 1, if you can connect the dots. And then he just starts licking himself. The dude is completely unhinged, and all of a sudden his personality switches, so apparently gluttonies can have multiple personalities inside them, or perhaps emulate them, which is very interesting to note. But unfortunately for him, as he tries to strike Otto, Otto summons 2 Laprases to fight by his side. And then we transition to Roy, who for some weird reason I just decided to hate on specifically, so now it's Doom. Now I just don't like the guy, he's just lame to me. What's even lamer than Roy though are Crunchyroll's subtitles, which, hey, I would never, ever advocate for piracy or anything of the sorts, so I was watching this illegally on Crunchyroll, a service that I subscribe to and pay for with my hard-earned money, and I was listening to it and reading the subtitles as you do, and Roy said Nisama, which I know enough of Japanese to know that is a little bit more nuanced than you. So he said Nisama, which is very interesting. He said Nisama to Julius, but in the subtitles it only appeared you, which is obviously a bad translation. Goofy translations aside, this is a very shocking moment which happens very suddenly and goes by very fast. It reminds me of a certain reveal in Attack on Titan, if you've ever seen that one, and this one can almost be missed by some fans if they're not aware of it. At the beginning of this season, we were introduced to Julius's brother, who has a very deep brother complex with him, and here Roy calls him Nisama, so ReZero fans can connect the dots because it is known that ReZero fans are in fact the smartest anime community of all time. I will say the One Piece community is the one with the best memory. Some of the things I read in the discussions about One Piece are so mind-blowing to me, like dudes talking about, hey, remember over 15 years ago when this character said that? Remember that? No, I don't. I was barely a teenager at the time. I didn't even have pubes. What are you talking about? Anyway, ReZero fans are by far the smartest, you've heard it here first. And then we transition to Subaru, who asks Emilia if she's okay, and all I can think of is, dude, you are infected with a strange virus in your hand, your leg is all mangled up, you are the one who should be going to a hospital right now. And speaking of hospital, everybody is worried about Reinhardt, and by everybody, I mean the 2 characters on screen, Subaru and Emilia, because the audience knows that he's absolutely fine, because he's Reinhardt. And so Reinhardt shows that there is no wound left, and he gives us a little peek of his jacked pec and ab, and yeah, it's such a good moment, by far the sexiest one in the episode. And that noise you heard, those were the fangirls around the world. It could never be me. I did not make that noise. You do not have proof of that, because I will have edited some sort of B-roll footage over me making that noise. So wait, no, I didn't make that noise. That's fake news. Reinhardt then proceeds to explain that he was revived by the blessing of the Phoenix, and he's just super casual and nonchalant about it, like, ha ha ha, I'd prefer not to die. And it's just such a huge slap in the face to Subaru, who is the only person in the world that can literally relate to him because he's gone through the same experience numerous times, and it is always so painful and such a struggle for Subaru, and we see that, we see his journey, and yet even Reinhardt is casual about ceasing to live. There's nothing this dude can't do. But then he appears. Dun dun dun! Regulus is unharmed even after being sliced by Reinhardt. Or blown up, or I guess it's the same thing when it comes to Reinhardt. Doesn't matter. Reinhardt then proceeds to deliver a super kick and start the meat smashing. He's just going to clobber him up since he can't do anything with a sword. And so he's going to entertain him while Subaru tries to figure out the trick to Regulus's authority. I've mentioned this in the past, but I love how Reinhardt, even though he's very elegant and very knightly, he's a little bit of a meathead, and sometimes he just outsources the thinking part to Subaru, which is just super funny. We then get a very chilling scene as Subaru and Emilia try to save the wives, but they will not move because their husband hasn't given them permission to. These ladies have been so traumatized and beaten into submission by Regulus that they are completely under his spell, even if he is seemingly getting beaten up by the strongest character in the universe. Even Subaru's talk no jutsu does not work, and that is a big surprise because people usually always have a reaction to Subaru, even if it's a negative one, especially at the beginning of the series, series, but he never really gets ignored like this, so that's a very surprising thing. Also, by the way, Reinhardt just has the blessing of telepathy and can just talk to Subaru like a godly voice from above. At this point it's just comical, the dude just does everything. And then we get a daring look from Emilia, which suits her quite well and would be a treat in any other episode, but on this one in particular it's like the fourth hottest thing we've seen. We go back to the old man and the cat as Capella is just chilling on the wall, apparently, and Garfield is fighting Kurgan, and he does this super cool spinning dropkick, almost like a reverse Gatsuga from Naruto, so shout out to my Naruto fans, and unfortunately it looks super cool but is not very effective. What is effective though are those Elsa large personalities that she carries with her. This episode is just fan service galore for both men and women, and especially for enjoyers of large breasts. I don't know what is up with this episode, what is up with this season, but somebody was feeling something and it's just incredible. Surprisingly, Capella does have other hobbies other than dripping down a wall disgustingly, because that was not in fact Capella, that was just a bunch of weird muck. Because the real Capella went after Krush, and how much does Krush need to suffer in this series? It's enough! Leave her alone, you weirdo! Just leave my queen alone, she's my queen, and she will always be my queen. We end the episode with the high-pitched, unnerving voice of Capella and the prayer for the green-haired Valkyrie. And like I mentioned, even if I would have preferred a little bit of new animation, the ending is always amazing. That final shot of Subaru surrounded by all of his friends and Priscilla always gives me goosebumps. Overall, this episode was very good. It was amazing, dare I say a bit on the fan servicey side, but that's nothing strange for Rezero, and it is also like this in the light novel. In fact, there are multiple scenes where Priscilla is used for fan service. I'm currently reading Arc 7, where that is also relevant, that also comes up. It's always Priscilla in these situations for some reason. I will say the episode was a bit all over the place, where you get the point of view of various characters and what they're doing, which can be a little bit confusing, but I think it's necessary after a bit of a hiatus. Keep in mind, I think that for this series, I think they should always keep in mind the binging experience, but also the weekly watching experience. And if you have been watching the episodes weekly, after such a long hiatus, it's good to remind yourself of where every character is and what they're doing. Arc 5 has a lot of characters to keep track of, so as the episodes go on, I'm assuming that they will be a little bit more focused on each group to really conclude their individual storyline before the final converging of every single character in the final episode. I will say, I think that Arc 5 and especially Arc 4 are very different in terms of viewing experiences as a binge and as a weekly watch. The episode was great, I am so excited for Peak to be back, and I'm looking forward to the action scenes because they will be glorious. What did you think of the episode? Be sure to leave it in the comments below, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, follow me on X, follow me on YouTube, follow me everywhere except in real life, because that would be stalking and that is punishable by law. Anyway, see you in the next video. Ciao!